We're back here at LaxCon with Storm. Have the best name in all of LaxCon from Kenya Lacrosse. Storm, thanks so much for stopping by again.
Thank you.
This has been quite a year for you guys in Kenya Lacrosse. When you look back at a year ago, you guys were just trying to get a U19 team to the Women's World Cup in Canada, and not only did you do that, but they were quite successful.
Yeah, they were. I mean, as you say, this time last year I was sat here sort of, trying to get our dream and turn it into reality. And 6 months down the line, somehow, still to this day, I'm not really sure exactly how we did it. But, we did, and the girls made it out to Canada, and they did pretty well.
Well, and they also provided maybe the coolest moment of the entire U19 World Cup when they had made friends with the Israeli team, and the Israeli team brought the whole team new cleats. Yeah.
Okay. So the situation was we did actually have cleats. We had a brand that was sponsoring our cleats, but the sizings weren't quite right, and there were a few sizes missing and various other things. And because we were playing on 3G, I was like, okay, well we can play in trainers, and that was all going to be fine until the one day it rained, which is when we played Israel. So we played Israel. We didn't necessarily have our best game. We were sort of slipping, sliding everywhere, and some of the players noticed that we were in trainers and not in cleats. And so that evening, the Israeli parents and the players had a team dinner after their win against us, and that conversation came up, and then the next day we all got a pair of cleats. So it's pretty special. It did hit the social media hard. I mean, House of Highlights, I think they put it on their Instagram account, and 2.8 million people have seen it. ESPN retweeted it. That was 800,000, and suddenly, these little Kenyans are everywhere.
Just what did that mean for the sport and for those players to have that opportunity and to be exposed to the sport at that level?
I mean, it was huge for them. None of them had ever left the country before, never, obviously never been on a plane. They get out to Canada, and they're sort of the darlings of the World Cup, and the social media was following them everywhere. And, I don't think people realised how they would perform. They just thought they might be, that team that just came from Africa, sang their way through, danced their way through, which, trust me, they did. I think you saw that as well. But they performed really well on the pitch, and I think a lot of people were surprised with the standard that they achieved, bearing in mind they're so new to the game. Some of our players have only been playing 9 months. Actually, our top point scorer, who's number 13 in the whole World Cup, has played for 9 months.
Unbelievable.
And I mean, these kids, they train as hard as they can, given the nature of their day-to-day life in Kenya. I mean, most of them are at boarding schools, and their days start at 4 a.m. and they finish at 11 p.m. and it's all about academics. It's not about sport. So I think it just shows, their mindset, the fact that they can start sport so late and have no training time or anything, and then finish top 13 point scorers. So
it tells you a lot about their athleticism as well. Really, that's pretty incredible. And so now you look ahead, and now you're trying to do the same thing for the guys in Ireland.
I'm sure I vowed never to do it again, but here we are.
Here we go.
Part 2 with the boys, so we'll see.
What's the job like for you guys to see if you can get a team to Ireland this summer?
Well, number 1, we're entered, so that's a good start. Now it's a case of selecting our team. So we had trials, our first round of trials in October, and we selected 78 boys to come and trial, which is a pretty good number.
Yeah.
There's some huge talent there. If I thought the girls were talented, the boys, you know what boys look. There's obviously super competitive. So we had 78 turn up, and we're cutting that down to around 40 in February, and then depending on a few things we might have to select in Feb, or we can wait till April, but it all depends because none of them have passports and everything, which it took our girls 4.5 months to get passports. So because the World Cup's quite close, we don't have that luxury to get passports, visas and all of that so late.
I mean, that's an overwhelming process. How can people help?
Where do I start? Kit donations are, hugely needed. The boys don't have any sticks, or well, we do have some sticks, but they're not in a financial position to even, as I said, we had 78 trials last month in October, and 57 turn up with no shoes. This is the sort of nature of the athlete we're dealing with. So equipment would be great. As with every nation, it's always about funding, and our kids are really disadvantaged, and if we said each parent needed to, pay $5 towards the World Cup, we wouldn't have one player. So we're really sort of struggling with financial donations. But I think it's just, you know, spreading word of mouth. You never know, like, who might have an affiliation with Kenya or Africa or boys lacrosse and just wants to see an African team representing at the World Champs. And if anyone wants to come out and coach and volunteer, then I'll be back out living there for another 5 months.
Just to me, the thing that jumps out is the enthusiasm for the sport, and because you have almost 80 players come out for a sport that probably some of them have barely heard of. What's the enthusiasm like for lacrosse in Kenya? We've
actually got more than that. That was selected. We selected 78.
Unbelievable.
I mean, they love it. I think it's really helped, obviously, the success of the girls, the hype both on and off the pitch, and I think, you know, the girls have really. The generosity in Canada was just mind-blowing. It really was amazing, and everyone else around the world that sponsored them. I mean, we had, I think, nearly 150 individuals sponsor our athletes for their kit and everything. So the girls have really benefited on and off the pitch. Now we're back home, you know, we've got funds to help them go back to school, because lots of them aren't in school, and funds to help them their transport back to school and things. And I think, you know, our girls and our boys team, we play against each other because there's no other team to play against. So, you know, when we went to Canada, some of our girls had only ever played one game against Uganda, and they'd played 2 games against a boys team. So the boys just know that what it's going to mean for them to be selected in, you know, that squad of 23. So I think that also helps with. Just don't need any sort of help at all. They are
want to compete.
Yeah, most of our players are from one area, and that's a big rugby area, and they're sort of #1 in Eastern Africa. So